Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Kahn Report wherever you get your podcast. You watch it on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media. That's AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. In a minute, I'm going to be joined by Rice football coach Mike Bloomgren to talk about his former player, receiver Luke McCaffrey. Now, originally I told you that Bobby Wagner, I was going to play an audio interview with Bobby Wagner today. I will play that Friday morning instead. And part of that is so I can address the whole situation with Brandon McManus. To be honest, the Wagner thing was all taped and pre-recorded. As you can see in the background, I'm not at my house. I'm at my mom's house. So anyways, I didn't feel like going through and re-recording everything on that one. We'll put that one out Friday, but I did want to at least update you on the Brandon McManus situation because, of course, things happened or were discovered on Monday as ESPN first reported about the situation with him involving two women in Dade County who filed a lawsuit against him alleging sexual assault. The allegations stem from a flight that the Jaguars took when he was with them last September, and they're asking for $1 million. And again, you can go to ESPN.com and read the who, what, when, where, why, or whatever of the situation, get all the facts of the situation as we know it based on the lawsuit that was filed. And the suit was filed like late Friday night. It came to light on Monday morning or Monday afternoon. So anyways, the particulars are all in there, but suffice to say, these two women alleged sexual assault against him, and there was some grinding on a team plane, etc. But now, so what's next? Now, what we know is, and I'm only going to stick to what I know. I'm not going to speculate on anything because I'm not in that position to do so. I can just tell you what I know. And what I know is that his attorney, Brett Galloway, strongly denies the accusations and called it a case of extortion, deliberate lies, etc. I know the attorney for the other side, Tony Busby. Yes, he's the guy that represented the women who sued Cleveland quarterback Deshaun Watson. Well, he said all these allegations were checked out before this filing. He said he said this on an Instagram posting that they tried to work this out with the other side before this, couldn't do it. That's why they filed the lawsuit. And I know the Commanders were made aware of the situation Monday. I do not believe that they knew about this until Monday. And the Jaguars coach, Doug Peterson, said he didn't know about this until being asked about it on Tuesday. So where this goes from here, of course, there's a chance if it goes a certain way that he could be cut, but I don't know what's going to happen because I just told you what I know. I'm going to stick with that for right now, but I did want to at least address and update you on the situation as much as I could do that right now. So, and of course, the Commanders signed McManus in the offseason, a 1-year, $3.6 million deal, let Joey Slye walk to do so. So that's what I know. That's what I'm going to stick to. From that, I'm going to get to my conversation with Rice football coach Mike Bloomgren. We talked a lot about Luke McCaffrey, and I know, some people always say like, well, of course his coach is going to say good things about him. Yes, and I agree. If they're not saying good things about him, that's a problem. But what I really look for when I talk to these coaches is insight into why do you feel this way about this player? Why did he make a transition from quarterback to receiver and end up as a third-round pick? What progress did you see from year 1 to year 2 as a receiver? What do you think is his best position? Now, what he played in college could be what he does in the NFL. So, he also, Bloomgren also coached Christian McCaffrey at Stanford. So he knows the family very well and that whole family dynamic and the competitiveness they show. So we talk a little bit about that. But suffice to say, he's very high on McCaffrey, and the Commanders need a guy to step up at that position because you have Terry McLaurin, and while I think Jahan Dotson, I think could still be a very solid receiver, he still has to go out and prove it. And De'Ami Brown, kind of expecting him to be what he's been. He's got the deep speed, but we've heard that for a few years, and there's nothing has ever really taken hold for him at this point. So they need McCaffrey to really kind of become a contributor this year. So can he do that? Et cetera. So anyways, I talked to Bloomgren all about that. So here's my conversation with Rice football coach Mike Bloomgren. Trades, free agents, quarterbacks, and all kinds of adventures await the Commanders this offseason. Looking for an adventure of your own? The Adventure Park at Sandy Spring has you covered. The country's largest ropes course and zipline park, located in Montgomery County, Maryland, is now open. Named Best Amusement Park and Climbing Destination in the DMV 2 years in a row, the Adventure Park at Sandy Spring is perfect for birthdays, corporate outings, groups, and families. With challenges anywhere from beginner to expert, there is something for all skill levels. Anytime you're thinking about reaching new heights, make sure you know before you go. The Adventure Park at Sandy Spring is the only ACCT accredited park in Maryland or Virginia. Staying on the ground? Give axe throwing a try. You can throw at traditional targets or play any number of interactive games. You can even upload your own image. So there you have it, folks. Climbing, ziplining, axes, food, and bonfires right in your backyard. Reserve your adventure today at www.theadventurepark.com/Kime. That's www.theadventurepark.com/Kime. Well, Mike, I appreciate you joining me. And obviously you want to talk about Luke and just in general, what is Washington getting in Luke McCaffrey?
Oh man, a tireless worker, a kid that absolutely is passionate about this game, and he's passionate about his teammates. I don't know how to say anything bad about Luke McCaffrey or his time at Rice. I really feel like I'm very fortunate to have got a chance to work with him and coach him.
Why, when you say passionate about his teammates too, how did you see that?
You know, he's the perfect teammate. He wasn't always somebody that used his voice as much as a leader, although he came into his own kind of there in the last year. I think he always did it to a certain degree as a quarterback because he felt the need to do it. And I think coaches probably, even his dad through the years, have told him, like, you have to use your voice. But it wasn't a thing of comfort. He always led by example. He was always going to outwork everybody. But in this last year, we saw him like understanding that his voice is a way that he can get back to the team and how he can help his teammates. And he did that even out of his comfort zone.
You remember a time in particular with that?
You know, there's not one time. There was times in the summer program. You know, I mean, it's always cool when you get voted a captain by your teammates.
Right.
Like that means everything when it happens by your peers. And I think starting on the leadership council for us and then becoming a captain and just times where his voice was so real, like, hey guys, like we're going to go beat these dudes today. And this is why, like just putting the time in to show his teammates, like, look, we've invested the time. And I'm going to invest the time in my words to you. I understand your time's precious. I understand you want to just go play this game. But coaches asked me to speak. And so because he's given me this platform, I'm going to tell you what's on my heart. I'm going to tell you what I think we need to do to win. And again, something that doesn't come easy for really anybody. It's a skill that you develop. And but he is natural because of the way he works and because of his field credibility.
In terms of the way he works, I mean, obviously some of that relates to the switch to going to from quarterback to receiver. But just what are some of the little things as a worker like that he puts in that maybe separates from others?
Yeah. So I think the way that he studies, he got from being in the quarterback room, right? And what an advantageous that is when you understand that, hey, when I go to an install, it's not an install for me. It's a review. Like I've got to make sure that I understand this inside and out and that I have any questions that are applicable ready for this meeting so that I can continue to move this thing along. And I think he definitely took that into the receiver room and was awesome. I think there's several things in moving from quarterback to receiver, although like, you know, you think it's a tough move and things, but certainly from a mental standpoint, the advantages are the advantages, right? Like, you know, the playbook inside and out, you know how to be quarterback friendly. And that's something he did extremely well, is understanding where the quarterback wants him to be, even when the playbook has to come to life and the defender's in that spot. Like, how can I get open? How can I give the quarterback an opportunity to throw the ball to me? I thought that was phenomenal. But we go back to, again, that's the preparation part, playbook-wise. When we talk about just how tireless of a worker he is, that's what's just phenomenal to be a part of. And, you know, it's almost like that should be like, of course he's going to work hard. Of course he's going to sell out for this game. Like, McCaffrey should be an adjective, not just a last name. You know, it's like a way that that family works and they grind and that they perform, quite frankly.
And I'll obviously get to that in a second, but with the receiver switch, he came to you for that, correct?
Yeah, so we had a rough season together in our first year of him playing quarterback and him going through some injuries, and in no way did the year go the way either of us thought it would with him at quarterback. And I just wanted to give him options because there's some traits that Luke has that are very very positive, but they're not necessarily positive in the quarterback room. And the biggest one I would tell you is he is an absolute perfectionist. And it's hard to be a perfectionist at the quarterback position if you can't be water off a duck's back and go to the next play.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was an anchor on him. It was also an anchor in coaching Christian at Stanford. Anytime we put him in Wildcat, like if he forgot to bring a motion on time, everything, he'd like implode, because they care so much. And so every little mistake, and whether you're playing running back or when you're playing receiver, your ability to be more perfect on a given play is a lot higher. And again, I think he's grown in his ability to go to the next play, but that wasn't going really well in his first year. I think he put an immense amount of pressure on himself to be perfect. And so we came out of the year and it's just like, hey, buddy, if you want to continue to go down this road as quarterback, we want you. We want you at Rice University. We want the teammate that you are, the competitor that you are. So there was no doubt in my mind we wanted him. And then I just wanted to say, but if you don't want to do that, if you want to look into another position, whether it's running back, receiver, safety, whatever it is, like I'm here for it. Like, I love you. I love your family. Let's make this work. And, he's like, Coach, I appreciate you putting in that context. Let me go home and talk to my family over Christmas break. And he came to us and said receiver. And he's like, I want to take a look at it. I'm not sure my quarterback career's done, but I want to take a look at that this spring. And the rest is history, right? Like a dad that played 13 years, I think, in the league. And, certainly there's something that came through in that genetics that made him a good receiver from the jump. And then the gains that he made from his first year playing receiver here to his second were just so outstanding.
Initially with receiver, how quickly did you see him, like, before you were saying like it's going to be good?
Oh, it was day one. I mean, it was the suddenness, the strong hands, everything. Like, honestly, seeing the knowledge of the playbook come to life at the receiver position. And, we had ended up bringing in JT Daniels.
Right.
And so, well, I guess not in his first year, but his second spring. And that's when he had such a huge jump, was with JT, because JT had so much trust in him. He knew how much Luke knew about the offense. He would find himself asking Luke questions of where he would be and why. And so they had some great dialogue. But yeah, in his first spring, I mean, it just didn't take long. You were like, wow, there's going to be some real good here. And the explosive plays just started becoming more and more plentiful. And his every down ability to kind of do the things that need to be done at receiver, whether it was blocking and blocking downfield for his teammates, huge blocks, those things that kind of become his trademark.
What were the biggest, right? Because he talked about this when he was drafted. He told us that, it almost sounded like, paraphrasing here, that first year you're kind of a little bit, almost robotic with it a little bit. And then second year, just the little intricacies he learned about receiver, how much it helped him. So what did you see in terms of that jump going from year one to year two?
Yeah, I think just that, the smoothness and the comfort at the position. And honestly, like, I've seen it get better and better at every opportunity, whether it was last spring after he had a year playing it under his belt to last fall, there was a big jump there. And then I enjoyed the heck out of watching him at the Senior Bowl, just, a month after we played our bowl game. I thought that was exceptional to see, again, just him continuing to grow. And that's why everybody, wants to ask the question, like, how good can Luke McCaffrey be? And it's like, why would I put a ceiling on that? This kid's like still growing and learning the position. He's been lifting like a receiver for 2 years. He's been playing receiver for 2 years. And he's done a phenomenal job in those 2 years.
What was the biggest thing that is obviously you don't master position right away. So what are some of the little things you say, okay, he's improving here, but still has to get better here?
Well, going in, let me talk about year one to year two.
Yeah.
Like, you have to catch every ball. Like, you have to find a way. And those contested catches, those are something that we challenged him with. And then to make every easy catch, like, hit your layups. Like, when the ball's in a range where you should catch it, make sure we look that thing in. And then you get a chance to go be special and go be Luke McCaffrey. But we've got to make sure we catch those balls. And so the amount of tennis balls he caught downstairs off of a tennis ball jug machine, to the jugs, to just running routes anytime a quarterback would throw to him, I think that's why he had those gains from year one of playing the position to year two. And if you talk about contested catches, like, every touchdown he has is like a highlight film, right? Like somebody's ripping his helmet off and picking his nose, and he still comes away with the ball. He doesn't have easy touchdown catches in year 2. And so if he hadn't made that jump, becoming such a dependable receiver on those contested catches, I'm not sure he's a Washington Redskin in the 3rd round right now.
What makes him a good catcher of those in those situations, a good receiver?
There's something about, like, you hear a great big receiver on the outside talked about, like, on a 50-50 ball, it's 80-20 with him. It's 90-10, right?
Right.
And a lot of times it's because those guys have good skills in the air or what have you. But most of the time when you have somebody that's a great catcher of the ball in those 50-50 situations, it's because of their desire. It's because of their competitiveness. He had a ball against Texas Southern where it's underthrown. The DB literally has it in his hands, about to step out of the end zone, and Luke grabs it and takes it away from him. Like, Luke wants it more. And to me, that's one of the things that, again, kind of falls under that adjective of McCaffrey. But, like, he'll bite your arm off to get the ball. And that's a great trait.
It's funny because in his first day at the OTA practices, he had a diving catch in the back of the end zone that it's like, and they were talking about how, like, he's going 100 miles an hour for every drill, but like those are the results of those kind of situations. I'm sure you saw a lot of at Rice.
Indeed. Yeah. And keep in mind, like, his value, like, if we needed him to jump in there at punt returner, he would do it. If we needed him to be a sting gunner when we're at the +50 punting, he'd jump in there and do it. And he was the best we had as a sting gunner. So yes, absolutely.
That's a competitiveness thing.
Yes, it is.
So with you coached Christian, obviously you've known Ed for a long time. What are some similarities between Christian and Luke? And here's the other thing, like, when you grow up, you're a younger brother in that kind of a family, there's going to be a chip on your shoulder and you're going to be competitive as hell. But what did you see as some similarities between those two?
Yeah, I don't think it's just about Christian. I think you got to take all the brothers. You got to talk about Max, and you got to talk about Dylan underneath Christian, between Christian and Luke, and the fact that household. But that all stems from what you started to mention with Ed. And you cannot mention Ed's effect as a parent without mentioning Lisa's. Those are two of the most competitive people I know. Those are just awesome parents that drive their kids, that push their kids in the most pure and positive way. I mean, and they work, those kids understand what work looks like. They can't look at their parents and the competitors that they are and not realize what it takes. They can't watch their dad and watch the films of their dad at Broncos games and not understand, like, what he sells out. And so I can joke that it's part of the DNA, and I do, but the reality is, I think that the competitive household that they were fortunate to grow up in helped forge who they are. And I would think for Luke, I mean, like, I can tell you that Christian has always been like, Luke is a killer. Like, you guys are going to love him since the moment we started recruiting him. Christian loves his family so much, and Luke is certainly no exception. He's so proud of Luke. Christian and I text right after right after the Commanders took. You're
not the only one who does that.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm better than that. I'll stay on the Commanders for now.
Trust me when I say a lot of people listening are probably okay with you saying Redskins. So anyways, but just getting to the family though, like, because they, Christian obviously has done very well in the NFL. Are there some and I know they're different positions, but are there some skill sets that you see as similar in addition to the competitiveness?
There's such different body types. Like, Luke is longer and from a linear standpoint, certainly taller, but their balance, their ability to come out of the other side of contact that often doesn't make sense is something that's really cool. And again, I don't know if we could do a study on that DNA wise, if something would come out, but they do more with less, whether it's a yard after the catch thing, whether it's coming down with a ball that you wouldn't think they should, but they do more with less collectively. That's something they both have in common.
And then with the competitiveness, like, you watch them, like, how did you see that when the family's together, or when you talk about Ed and Lisa being committed, what little things would you see with that?
Oh, I don't think it takes very long in a conversation with Ed or Lisa to understand how they're driven and how they've raised their boys. But keep in mind, like, I think Luke was 9 years old when he came to Stanford on an unofficial visit with Christian. And so that's the first time I got to see Luke. And, he was just a bubbly little kid, but you have those conversations with Christian. And when you talk to Christian, like, he's going to look through you. Like, he is going to be so intent on what you're saying that you feel like he's looking through your eyes to see your brain. And there's a little bit of that with the family that's just built in. They are so focused. And once I really believe this to be true when I coached in the NFL too. When you have a competitor like that and they understand that you can help them in some way, you can get their full attention. And certainly you do that with everybody in the family. But I just think, like, the conversations with Lisa and Ed through the years have been some of my favorite times, like on whether it's on recruiting visits or just getting the opportunity, like hanging out with them at Luke's pro day and talking about what's next. And it's just so fun. It is so fun for them. And I saw Ed on Twitter the other day, like, hey, NFL, can you hurry up and release the schedule so I can get all these complicated flights booked for next year? And it's like, yeah, that is a real problem that most people don't have to deal with. It's how they're going to see both their sons play in the NFL.
That's very true. But, with that too, like you said, Ed played the position. So what little things would you see maybe Luke do not just because he has the genes, but because he has access to the knowledge? Like, that's tapping into some pretty good insight that you have, not just the genes.
Yeah, I couldn't speak to that in particular about Ed. I know they talked every day. Like, he would always tell me that, like, and I think Ed was able to watch his film and stuff too, and talk about during the transformation or really the transition of positions, I guess I should say. For Christian, I don't want to say how much they've talked. That's a better question for Luke. But what I can tell you is, like, Luke studies the heck out of film. And he and one of our current running backs, Dean Connors, would watch Christian film for hours. And how Christian ran option routes at Stanford and continues to do in the NFL, that's something that I saw, the same suddenness, the same ability to step on a defender's toes and break inside that Luke's been able to do for us and be such a dependable source of first downs on third down. And because of that suddenness, because of that ability at the top of the route, and then again to finish the play and make that catch in a tough situation.
These guys, when they drafted him, they talked about him playing slot. How, but I think he did a little bit more than that for you guys. So, like, how do you see him growing? And I know it's going to be dependent. Their plan is their plan for him, but I have a feeling you're not just going to be a slot in the NFL. So curious what you think of him and in what role.
Yeah, it's interesting because, again, my knowledge of Coach Kingsbury's system is very limited. I've never coached in an air raid. Luke was a Z for us, right? Anytime we were in 12 or 21, and then he would often move to the slot when we were in 11 personnel. And so he certainly has a lot of experience in the slot. I think when you talk about option routes, when you talk about the ability to get open on third down and in the red zone, it's a great place to move into. But yeah, I think he has the ability to play a lot of places. And then I would never undervalue him as a special teams demon, because I think his desire will have him find his way on the field in those situations.
It's funny because they have Terry McLaurin here too, and different regime, but they drafted McLaurin third round, and the big thing they mentioned for him was special teams. And the funny thing is, he's actually never played it, but that's what he did at Ohio State. So, but it's the same kind of guy, right? The competitiveness, the guy who's just a good player no matter where you put him. With as far as a skill, like what would make him a good slot receiver? What makes him that?
I think the suddenness and the understanding of the system, those are two things that are critically important. And so when you say, like, hey, I'm going to understand not just the scheme, but I'm also going to be able to look out there and decipher what the defense is doing, because he's so used to doing that from a quarterback standpoint. If you just think about his pre-snap inventory of things, it used to be you call a play in the huddle, you break the huddle, you're up to the line of scrimmage, you're making a protection call, you're looking at the rotation of the safeties, you're checking the corners to see if you have leverage and off coverage, and then a cadence and we go. Now all he's got to do is line up and understand if there's a motion or not, and he can absorb that whole picture while the quarterback's going through his mechanics.
Last thing then, obviously you brought this up earlier about him playing the position at quarterback, helping him understand how to help a quarterback or receiver. So what are some of the little things and you always hear about guys being quarterback friendly, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but what would you see in him that makes him that? Like, what are the little things you see as a receiver that you know that may stem from knowing the position, so the quarterback position so well?
Yeah, kind of what I was just referring to. Like, hey, okay, the slot is outside leverage on this. And on the snap, he goes to inside leverage. And I see the safety rotation. So I understand where the window could possibly be. And just because, again, he's not just thinking about running his line like it is drawn in a playbook. He's thinking of doing what the quarterback needs him to do to find that window. And I think that's certainly true against zone coverage and being able to find those holes and those small windows, especially in the National Football League, how small they are, and live this thing in fractional seconds. I think him having that ability to be on the same page as the quarterback, because he can gather data pre and post snap from what the defense has given him, is going to be a big deal. From a man coverage standpoint, the suddenness is the biggest thing, right? Like being able to get the defender leaning a little bit just to create that, again, that small NFL window of separation that's needed to complete a pass.
Mike, I appreciate your time, and good luck this season, man.
Thanks so much. If I can do anything else to help, please call or text anytime.
That's it for this episode. Thanks to Mike Bloomgren for joining me, and thank you, as always, for tuning in. I'll be back on Friday again with the Bobby Wagner audio interview on a lot about leadership and a few other topics involving him, as well as Jaden Daniels. So, talk to you next time.